there is no need to fear. You can't run very far. Curiosity's curse has brought you to our home of bizarre. Consider us your friends, or simply your humble guides, as we unlock those doors in which they attempt to disguise. Welcome to a world of ghosts and grays and end of days. Welcome to a house of magic and fairies, all occurring suspiciously close to the fictitious town of Derry. Welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow with your host, John and Stacey Edwards of ParanormalSideshow.com. Hello and welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow. I'm your host, John Edwards, and joined as always by my lovely wife, Stacey.
Hello.
Happy New Year.
Oh, Happy New Year.
Yeah, it's 2018, folks.
Wow.
In case you didn't realize it, another year down.
I know.
This is
crazy.
This is the year of the sideshow.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Definitely.
Cool.
It's going to be a great year for the sideshow offs, which is what I have officially named you guys. All of our listeners are the sideshow offs. Come on, that's cool.
It's a cool name.
I'm going to come up with some t-shirts.
Okay.
Because we have to have some t-shirts.
Okay.
There's too many funny things I want to put on t-shirts that just so if you're in a mall and you happen to see another sideshow listener, I mean, come on, that's something you come up and you actually hug that person, right? Because you know that they listen to John and Stacey.
Hey, it's a small world, as we find out all the time.
Well, it is, and we have listeners. We get about 15 average 15 messages a day from different people, and it's from everywhere. I've been talking to some very interesting lady here recently because I was the one that happened to get the message first. Me and Stacey have this game. We have this game where whoever gets it first, that's who you're going to probably talk to.
Right.
And I got one interesting one. She's taking me down some rabbit holes, and I love this stuff, you know, some stuff I have to look up with South Dakota and all this stuff. And it's been really interesting. We're really busy. You know, I'm a really busy person professionally aside, you know, as I've talked about the Bruce Wayne job. By the way, 2017, I kicked everybody's butt.
Of course you did.
As every year.
Yes.
It's kind of like Bill Belichick. I'm not a Patriots fan, but I'm a fan of Bill Belichick.
Right.
I have a system. And once that system is installed, we kick everybody's butt. So, and I mean, I didn't just kick everybody's butt by a little bit. I kick it by a lot.
Of course.
And I have an amazing team up here that just kills it. Absolutely slays it. I'm in charge of a lot of people, and it's important to me that those people have a good experience and they spread their wings and they grow and they get promoted and they do great things in life, and they don't let people tell them that just because they're paranormal loving, wrestling, watching rock and roll fool that they can't be a professional wearing a suit.
Exactly.
You know, so it's okay to be crazy. You need to embrace your crazy. And I believe, just letting you guys know, that the people who pretend that nothing's real, they're the ones you got to watch out for, because they're hiding people in their basement. They really are. The people that aren't just wide open and just saying, you know, yeah, I tried that in college and I inhaled a lot. You know what I mean?
Right.
You got to watch the people that are just like, no, not me. I've always been good. And
no, there are not people tied up in my basement right now.
No, I've only had one partner my entire life. Yeah, I don't trust. You see, I just don't trust them. It's you got to watch out. Embrace the crazy. Embrace the grind. I work literally 60 hours a week minimum on the regular job, and I put every ounce of passion I have into it until I do the other thing, and then I put every ounce of passion I have in that. And you know, so it's a lot of fun. We love talking to all you guys so much, and we've made so many friends. The cool thing this past year, 2017,
yes,
is the sideshow. We started it in 2016, but in 2017 it really took off, and we have the studio in our own house, and which is really cool because the ambiance of this house and in Stephen King country of being 150 years old, there's been some crazy stuff happen the last few weeks. And it's really weird because the last few weeks we have experienced this incredible cold snap. Now, most of the country has.
Yes.
But for those of you who live in other countries, just let me explain to you. We've had this incredible Arctic cold snap. Now, where we're at, all you hear on the news, like if you see the news, they're like, oh, it's so cold in freaking New York or whatever. Boo-hoo. It's like negative 20 here. Negative 20. Okay.
Right.
Not a wind chill. The wind chill is, oh my God, say your prayers and hug somebody. That's the wind chill. It's been negative 15, negative 20, but not just like a day, relentlessly for weeks. Okay. And it gets dark here at like, I don't know, lunchtime.
No, it's like 4:30.
I mean, it gets dark early, really early.
It does.
So it's a very depressing place, but it's a great place for an artist. It's a great place to, for people who are into crazy dark stuff and, us. But the house has picked up like it's paranormalisms. I don't know. It's
right. Well, we were actually snowed in pretty good. Like we didn't go out and we didn't have anywhere to go.
Right.
And it was like below zero. So we didn't bother going out and moving in snow or shoveling. So we were essentially snowed in.
Yeah. Well,
for a few days.
I had taken off some vacation days and had expected to do some stuff. And it just so happened that I suffer from migraines. I'd only have been suffering from migraines for a very short time, like maybe 5 years. And they don't happen often. They happen maybe once every other month, something like that, where I get a killer, just a bad one. And it so happened this past week, I had one on New Year's Eve of all nights. And then I had one this past week on Thursday and Friday that lasted 2 days. And when I have migraines, it's like I am full on visions, just sweating, completely. So funny story. I was sick as a dog. I mean, throwing up. And like Stacey said, we had 2 feet of snow. We had a blizzard with hurricane force winds. It was weird. We've had this big super moon, all this crazy stuff happening. Right.
Right.
So I wake up completely naked, drenched in sweat, no covers. All right. And I had been out of my mind for a good 20 hours. Out of my mind, folks. And I wake up and I'm completely naked. Stacey's not even in the room. She's not, I don't know where she's at. I guess she was downstairs in the living room, maybe on the couch, something. I don't know. And I don't know why that I'm like, at first I'm like, oh, it's kind of chilly. And I reach down to scratch my butt and it's all butt. And I'm like, what the heck? So I kind of like, I find my clothes and it's weird. It's like kind of college find your clothes. You kind of feel weird, you're waking up in a weird dorm room and you're like, all right, where's my underwear? All right. And so I come to find out Stacey's kind of like, you don't remember? I'm like, what are you talking about? And I the funny thing is my son Cody listens to this down in Tennessee.
I'm sorry, Cody. And I didn't know he was going to tell this story.
It's so funny because we did the story like last time about the ghost saying something. That time we were having mommy daddy time, hashtag mommy daddy time. And we so this is crazy though, because it is paranormal in its own sense. So I get downstairs and everything, and I'm talking to her and she's like, you don't remember? I'm like, don't remember what? She's like,
I was slightly offended.
Mommy daddy time. You texted me in the middle of the night while you had been sick, mind you. And
to my credit, I answered the call.
Yes. So undoubtedly Stacey had came up and I guess I passed out like right after mommy daddy time. Hashtag mommy daddy time. Right after this happened, she says that I make like these weird like sounds and like I have this horrible pain and then I'm just dead.
And then you were like, just get out of the room. I've got to lay down. I'm sick.
Yeah.
And I usually do stay out of the room when you're sick with migraines because it's just easier for you.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I'm going. And then I didn't see you again until later on.
So
it's funny.
So yeah, that happened, and I really don't know how in the world it happened, but it happened, and I can only put that up to paranormal. But there's been some weird stuff going on in the house. There's been Ariana seeing an orb.
She did.
She came upstairs and she's like, "Hey, I just seen this white little orb, go in front of my face," and And we've seen things in the...
And then what happened to Raja and I?
Yeah.
When we were cooking, it was actually while you were sick. And we were in the kitchen and we were making dinner because we were just going to watch a movie together since you were in bed.
Right.
And so Raj and I were just talking, and I was at the stove and she was standing in the corner of the kitchen, and we're just talking. And between us is this box of stuffing. I was making stuffing, and the box moved, like it actually wiggled, and neither one of us were anywhere near it. It wasn't leaning. It moved.
Right.
I mean, and we both saw it, and we both were kind of like, did you see that? And at first it didn't really process. And she was like, yeah, that just moved. So then later on, after you had come downstairs, I was in the living room, but you guys were in the kitchen, and she was telling you about us seeing that box move. And didn't you say something else happened?
Yeah. So in the same spot that the box apparently was at, there was a bottle sitting there. It was a bottle of sauce. And she was telling me about it, and it moved. Like, we both seen it, and it freaking moved. And it didn't just move, it like tipped over. And I was like, okay, well, that's weird. Right in the same spot. So maybe there's a vortex there. I don't know.
It's weird.
But there's been a lot of stuff going on. We've been seeing little things on the floors, and, the little black streaks and all this stuff on the floor. So we've either got a visitor. It is Christmas.
Well, it's cold.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's Christmas season, New Year's season. It's kind of that time, but it's like you said, it's been that snowed in feeling that.
Right.
It's weird. The weather's weird. There's a lot of stuff going on.
And you got the super moons,
Yeah, and the migraines. Every time I've had these migraines, it's like I have the weirdest dreams. It's almost like I've got, the brain fever, like the visions and the...
Right. I like calling it brain fever.
Yeah. It's my old English.
Makes me want to get you a jar of snake oil.
I'm telling you.
To cure your brain fever.
It's just weird, man. It's like I go off and I'll have these very vivid visions, and I should really write them down, but they're so weird.
Right.
And I know it's because I've got this terrible migraine happening, but it's just weird nonetheless. But yeah, the cold has been crazy. Christmas was killer. New Year's was awesome. On the front of things I enjoy, Wrestle Kingdom 12 from Tokyo, Japan. You guys, newjapanworld.com. If you've ever liked wrestling, you need to subscribe to that and go watch it.
Very entertaining. I actually even enjoy it. I'm not even really a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
And I love watching it. Because it's so good.
Yeah. It's very shoot based, and which and
entertaining.
It's entertaining, and it's just, we love Japan anyway, and we love the culture of Japan. And my buddy Chase Owens, as I've talked about before, you should look him up on Thrill of the Chase on YouTube. He got to wrestle on it. 40,000 plus fans, and very cool. Just very cool. It's been a nutty time, other than being sick AF. I'm going to make that a thing.
You're going to make that a thing?
Yeah. Other than being sick AF and the Bruce Wayne job and the 2017 ending, we've got some things to talk about for 2018 coming up. That this show is going to be fun. We're going to revisit the most craziest stories of 2017. We're going to revisit some of what we feel is the biggest, most amazing stories of 2017.
Right. Or at least the biggest things that we talked about throughout the year. Right.
Things that we believe that should be remembered about the year in paranormal and weird.
Right.
And we're also going to do some fun predictions for 2018.
Okay.
I thought that would be cool, and also reflect a little on some of the coolest things that happened to us in 2017 along the way. We'll just put it in there with the stories. It won't be your normal broadcast. We do have a couple of news stories. Yeah,
just one or two, just because there's a couple things that just need to be talked about, mentioned. Yeah, but we'll do another show with some full-on news soon.
Yeah, we'll be back on the normal schedule here soon, but we wanted to bring you guys a little bit of a treat. We're only a little bit behind on it because, as I said, I've been sick AF.
I don't know if you're going to get that to...
Well,
I think you're going to have better luck with the hashtag Mommy Daddy Time.
You think hashtag Mommy Daddy Time's got it?
So, yeah.
Well, if you are a long-time listener or a first-time listener, we really do appreciate all the love through 2017. And hopefully you will tell people about this. And when you do tell them, just say paranormalsideshow.com. That's your address to go find out everything Mommy Daddy Time. Facebook.com/paranormalsideshow. All kinds of Mommy Daddy Time. On the Twitter, it's at Side Show 97. Sometimes you'll see a little bit too much Mommy Daddy Time on there. Instagram, hot John and Stacey Dam. It's John and Stacey Edwards, Mommy Daddy Time. That's actually not the address, but we might make a new one just for you. On youtube.com/paranormal sideshow, they will demonetize us for Mommy Daddy Time. And we are available on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Google Play, or however you want to listen. That's where we're going to be having Mommy Daddy Time. And now it's time for some paranormal news.
All right, so let's get to some recapping the news.
Let's.
All right, so let's talk about some things that we thought. Let's start with the things that we thought were the biggest stories of the past year. And, you know, just the biggest things we talked about. Maybe we talked about them more than once. Maybe we thought they were really important.
Right. Things you need to remember.
Exactly.
Because we know all you stoners that have a hard time remembering everything. So we thought we'd help you out. And
exactly. And do a little refresher course here.
It's of course, I'm generalizing here. I know that some of you are just overwhelmed with the amount of crazy that comes in the world these days. I mean, come on, right?
Yeah.
In any given week, there's so much just bombarding us anymore with nutty stuff that we wanted to kind of read between the lines and bring you the absolute things you probably need to think about and remember.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so these are not in any particular order. There's just 5. So the first one is obviously going to be the one that we just talked about in the last episode, the Pentagon UFO project that they finally came out and said that they did.
Right.
Because that has got to be one of the biggest stories of the whole year.
Or of all time. Disclosure, not disclosure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And, you know, there's been a couple other things come out. Now people have come out and, like, I think the video that was with that article, those pilots had come out and done extra interviews and talked about it and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so, and they said, you know, there's absolutely no way that that thing could have been ours or anybody's. Right. The way that it was doing, and obviously, it's not the most groundbreaking piece of UFO evidence. And I've seen people joke about it and go, "Oh my God, it's just this." But you know what? It's official evidence, and that's what makes it so important. And it's not like they wanted this out. This was like almost like the mistake or the oops out.
Right.
And of course, they're not following it up a whole lot.
No.
But it did, you know, the big part of the story, and we did cover it in depth, but the big part of the story is it's finally there's something out there telling us, yeah, they were looking at this. And I don't believe that it stopped. I know it says it stopped, but they also said at the time that they weren't doing it.
Right.
So, I mean, you can't believe them. I mean, it's they're looking into this stuff and, of course, putting it over to where they put it.
Right. Well, they
Mr. Bigelow.
They actually came out. There's another article that I'll link to that they actually came out where they were kind of trying to backpedal a little bit about some of the information that came out and said that it was confusing and that they hadn't been clear about, you know, the intention of the program, which doesn't really even make any sense.
Right.
So I'll link to all that stuff. It's really interesting.
Well, they've even put their goon patrol out there. They had Neil deGrasse Tyson on freaking CNN kind of doing the X-Files music, like, oh, ho, ho, ho.
Right. Well, they had him on, who was it, Stephen Colbert.
Yeah.
And I think Colbert actually got the better of him a couple times.
Well, with something we're going to talk about.
So let me just recap here.
All right.
Sort of how this whole disclosure thing kind of went through the year. Through, you know, with our episodes. So we did do the Pentagon UFO project on the very last episode, but earlier in the year, episode 12, I think it was probably one of the first episodes this year,
right, of
2017. We had the story about the Chilean UFO footage,
right,
that their government released after they had it for like 2 years.
Because I talked about how much I love Chile.
Yeah, and they had been investigating it, and they finally released it, and we're like, we don't know what this is.
Because they don't give AF. Right,
and then. Exactly. And then it went on a few episodes later, and we talked about how NASA did that big announcement about the TRAPPIST-1 system that they found, you know, with all the planets and stuff. And all of a sudden, all the news places like NBC were doing stories about the best places to find alien life.
Right.
Where they were kind of just sneaking it in with their news like it was just everyday talk.
Yeah, something you noticed, actually.
Right. And then a couple episodes after that, we had the Kurt Russell interview where he was talking about the Phoenix Lights incident. And then a couple episodes after that was the U.S. Space Corps story.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
And it's funny because I found an update to that U.S. Space Corps because they wanted to do it, but then it got nixed in Congress. But it's not actually dead. So they're not actually making the U.S. Space Corps like they wanted to. They
accidentally told us about it and probably are still doing it.
Well, some people decided that they didn't think it was a good idea to make another branch of the military.
Right.
And so they've retooled the whole thing to say that they're going to do a study on if it's a good idea to make this.
Well, there's a lot of people that think they've had a secret Space Corps for years and have, I'm just saying it's one of the theories out there that there's been people that's come forward and said, hey, I've been part of this secret space program.
Right.
At Mars, and we have colonies and all this stuff.
Maybe they just don't want to make it official.
Right. Yet. Right. I'm not saying I agree with or with these people, but I'm just saying there are people who do say these things.
There are. And I guess the whole thing was they just didn't want to make a new branch of the military because, that's a big deal.
I think they should give the Coast Guard some more props first.
I think so.
Like, let's just make the Coast Guard defend us from aliens, because I don't think those guys get enough love.
Yeah, but don't they do enough already?
They do quite a bit. I mean, you don't really realize it until you live in a coastal area.
Right. How important that is.
And you go to these places and you see some of these coastal waters and you're like, nope.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So then further on in the year, then we had the whole Tom DeLonge.
Yeah.
Stories coming out with his announcement and his To the Stars Academy and everything that he's doing.
He could have had a great career in porn. Like, just that name.
Tom DeLonge.
Anyway.
Okay, anyway. And then we get to the interstellar object.
Yes.
And that was a huge story because it's the first time they ever detected anything that came from interstellar.
From out of our universe,
right,
out of our galaxy, interstellar space,
right. And then they decided to scan it for technology, which
and there's been a lot of theories to this. So I mean, let me just recap this a little bit. The crazy things about the interstellar object are the fact of its shape. Number one, it's not a natural thing that occurs. Okay?
No, because it's cigar shaped.
It's cigar shaped, right? So for years and years and years, the cigar shape is one of the UFOs people see, people claim to see, credible people claim to see. So I'm not going to elaborate on that. If you listen to the show, you know about cigar UFOs. Okay,
right.
So there's the cigar shape, which is not a natural occurrence. Normally, they're collections of rocks or whatever, and they're circular or whatever, and they're the common asteroid. Okay. Now this is a complete cigar shape, whatever, floating from interstellar space. Now, folks, we've been keeping up with this for quite a while. This has never happened. Right. All right. So as much as we watch space, and granted, we miss some things.
Well, yeah, naturally.
Because it's space.
Right.
What we've never tracked an interstellar object entering our neighborhood before.
Right.
Okay. So that's odd itself. Then the trajectory, it kind of went on this trajectory, around the sun and kind of shotgunning as we would do with a satellite. And we have seen footage before from solar footage where it looks like possibility of an alien craft fueling up off our sun before, which that could be a lot of things that we are not paid or scientists of the sun to understand. And amateur astrologists will say that it's this. I don't say that because I don't know enough about it.
Right.
Okay. But it does look that way. Just saying, there's been some strange things about this. And there's also been some great theories about if it was a long journey of these aliens and they were in this thing, maybe they are in a chamber and they are sleeping and the power's off and it's going on around this area and shotgunning off power energy, and boomerang effect and going off into space. Right. So it's just weird, the anomalies of all of it. And there's more things to it. When they were checking it out, it was like it wasn't made up of what normal space objects are made up of. Right.
There was tons of things about it that were just weird.
Right. So, and the government has put their hacks out already. So you got Neil deGrasse Tyson, right? And he's one of those kaku guys, you know, like Mitch and Noman kaku, I think, that come out and they'll be on CNN and they'll do the X-Files music and they'll just laugh and hardy har it. And so on Colbert, he was talking to Colbert, which I don't watch a lot of Colbert, but Colbert made a perfect, wonderful analogy. My God, it was amazing. And he was saying, you know, how did he say it exactly?
Well, I think Tyson was trying to say that the reason it did that whipping motion was because of gravity and that it wasn't anything, or because Colbert was like, I want it to be aliens.
Yeah.
You know, he was just like, I want that to be aliens. And, you know, Tyson was like, well, it just because it whipped around, you know, that's just a gravity doing it. And so Stephen Colbert made the point. He's like, well, watch this. And he threw his pencil in the air. And he's like, see, that pencil's coming down because of gravity. He's like, but a person, a physical human entity, started that in motion. Right. And the gravity's bringing it down. He's like, so why couldn't something have started that in motion? And, you know. And it goes a lot to the realm of what you have used many years in our paranormal studies. When people have said, well, this could have been caused by this. You're like, yeah, absolutely. This day and time, you could probably make anything happen. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't paranormal. Right. And you know, we have the abilities to fake anything. We do. But it doesn't mean that it's faked. We still need to study it. We still need to look at it this way. And to be so dismissive when that's your whole job is the universe and studying physics. And you think you would be a lot more excited. Right. And that's the thing. One thing that's been very puzzling to me with this whole story, with the somewhat disclosure, with the official footage, with all this stuff, has been some of the long-term ufologists and that really just instantly crapped all over this footage, this Pentagon footage. Some of them did it, you know, because they were saying it was, you know, anything that comes from the government is probably disinformation or whatever. I mean, that's a legitimate argument. It is. And then others just made light of it. And I'm thinking, you know, this is what we wanted. This is a step in the right direction. So I think we should all be excited about it. And I know that in the field, in the paranormal field, it's become this thing where people are a bit condescending about most footage, and they're dismissive of things because a lot of people got duped. You know, when this first became this big craze and the internet took over and we started seeing like amazing footage. Unfortunately, there's those people out there who thought, well, you know what, I'm going to fake this, or I'm going to put up this stuff or whatever. And that sucks. It does. But it cannot stop us from trying to find out the truth, because listen, there are weird things that happen every day that are unexplainable. Absolutely unexplainable. And honestly, there are things that happen that are so weird that people rarely talk about them because they're just too far out there to even, you know, nobody's going to believe you. Oh, yeah. And it's just, but this is a strange place we live in. It really is. And there's a lot of weird, unexplainable things that happen. So don't let a few bad apples ruin a whole bunch of the of the exploration, you know? So all I'm saying is, so when some weird alien drive-by happens and they turn their lights off and they're inching by your planet, you may want to hide behind your couch. Okay. Exactly. Well, so, and after we had talked about that, then of course the last story was the Pentagon program. But if you look at all those stories that we did over the whole year, I mean, it really looks like slow disclosure. Yeah. I mean, like they're moving in that direction. Which you could listen to a episode of ours from 2010 and Stacey would be talking about slow disclosure. It's very slow. It's very slow. It's one of Stacey's favorite things is the slow disclosure, because she believes in the Hollywood effect. She believes in the government control and how they pretty much, and I do too, but I'm just saying that Stacey's one of those that's awake. Well, it's just one of the, you know, it's one of those things where if they talk about it enough, people eventually get used to it. I mean, it could be shocking. I mean, think about all the things that your parents thought were shocking that you did that you didn't think were shocking at all. Think about things that your kids do that you think are kind of shocking, but they think are normal. Everything changes. And it is so crazy how they have changed our society. And you're exactly right. And normally when I'm watching something, it'll be Stacey that points it out as a reason that I give her the credit for that. She'll be like, you know,
there's been quite a number of movies about the same thing, or there's a whole lot of TV shows about the same thing. This is kind of weird. And really, she's the one that usually points that stuff out. I hate to think everything's a work, but I don't like trust hardly anything that I see in the first place.
Right.
But she really points that stuff out. And you're right, man. I mean, when we were kids, the stuff we did that was completely, utterly shocking to our parents is we would love our kids to be that way now, because it's
people just accept it now.
Yeah. There's so much more that's just accepted that was not accepted. And some of it's good.
Right.
There's a lot of it that's accepted now. That's amazing.
Right.
But there is some that's like, whoa, I can't believe that we've got to this point.
Exactly. And it's just because it happened slowly. Yeah.
So, I mean, the fact that now you can talk about ghosts and you can talk about UFOs and you can talk about these things that when we started doing this, when we started to actual research, because we were victims in 97. When we started the actual research, it was the years following that. You just couldn't find the stuff on it. You couldn't find people that had, or at least were talking about their experiences.
Right.
Unless you went to somewhere we didn't live, because we were in the South.
Right.
And it just didn't happen, man. And now it's completely accepted. Like, I don't hide it. People think it's cool. I mean, they're like, yeah, we've had experiences too. And I've said before, everybody's had an experience. Like, it's kind of like the Kevin Bacon, it's the 6 degrees of paranormal.
They've either had it or they know somebody that's had it.
On UFOs or ghost.
Yeah, exactly.
You are hard pressed to talk to anybody who has not at least had a ghost encounter or had a UFO sighting or at least known somebody in their family, worked with somebody. So to me, that should be on the nightly news every night, about sightings and stuff.
All right. Well, let's go on to our next big story from the past year. And of course, this is going to be the release of the JFK files, because that was just huge.
Oh, yeah.
And they actually did 2 releases.
Yeah.
The first one was back in July. It was not a big one. It was about 3,000 some odd documents. Of course, they make them really hard to see sometimes. But then the big release happened at the end of the year, when nobody was really expecting it. They thought Trump would stop it. And then he didn't. So, and then we got all that amazing and wonderful information about how they were planning on killing Fidel Castro with an exploding seashell and all that good stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we got the information on Hitler. I mean, all these conspiracy theories, man, just got blown wide open. And it really, there again, it goes back to, holy cow, the people wearing the tinfoil hats are the ones we need to be talking to.
Exactly.
And of course, the whole tinfoil hat thing and just making it crazy in the first place, that's always been a government deal.
Oh, yeah.
And there was books published. There was studies published on how we discredit these people. And of course they do, right?
Right.
It's funny you were talking about that, and I started thinking about the comedian Trevor Moore.
Oh, yeah.
If nobody has ever listened to Trevor Moore, you need to go look him up on iTunes or YouTube, and especially YouTube. Go look up Trevor Moore Kitty History.
Yes, and watch the video
for Kitty History.
It is amazing.
You will, if you haven't seen it, you will flip out.
I'm going to link to it.
It's so funny.
Yes.
But it's so weird because it's like everything we talk about and it's all in the context of a song, but that just made me think about it because it's
great comedian.
It's some good stuff.
All right. Well, let's move on. We're not going to rehash all that JFK stuff. That was still pretty recent. Okay. So another thing that I thought was a big story this last year, and it's always a big story. It's been a big story for years and years and years, is the mysterious boom.
Yes.
One of your big one.
Oh, it's my biggest.
And as funny as it is, the first episode we did this year, we talked about mysterious booms. It was the Paranormal Roundtable episode where we had Travis and Alan on, and we all picked a subject and we brought it to the table, and yours was mysterious booms. Right. And at the time, there had already been so many. Yeah. And then over this whole year, there have just been a ridiculous number of mysterious booms.
Yeah, including in our hometown here.
Yes.
Well, not our hometown, but the town we live in.
Right.
There was one here and it's still not explained. And it's been happening. There's been, just like UFOs, there's flaps. And it seems like there's flaps of the booms that happen, and sometimes they'll happen in a specific area over a course of time. And and there's the weird thing, it's like the sky trumpets, and if you never looked that up on YouTube, that'll freak you out, dude.
Definitely.
Look it up and listen to what these people are hearing. And it's just nuts. It sounds like heavy machinery in the sky being moved around. And like I said, to me, it's like a dimension bleed. And I always have to go back to CERN and just really wondering if something that's happening there is causing us to hit those parallel dimensions. And it goes back to the Mandela effect, which has been another big story this year for us.
Absolutely.
You know,
it wasn't, I guess that's not technically a news story, but it was something that we discovered and decided to talk about.
Yeah. So. And really took Alan Marston down a path of destruction.
Exactly.
You know, it's been a very interesting subject because so much of it hits home and so much is explainable too. But it still begs the question, has something happened that has changed our course of history, has changed our mindsets, have changed things that's happened in the past? And are some people awake to this and some people not? And, you know, it's one of those things that when you do start talking to someone about it, they're kind of like, oh, crap. And when you add all the pieces up, you add CERN, you add Mandela effect, you add the mysterious booms, stuff that's not talked about in mainstream media. Okay. So why do we not talk about the mysterious booms? Okay. Especially when we're under nuclear watch, when we're worried about North Korea, we're worried about, you know, other countries, right? If there was a blip on radar, it would be, you know, balls to the wall. Everybody'd be going crazy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If there was anything that they didn't know about that was happening, they would be talking about it.
Yeah.
But when somebody knows about it, they don't talk about it. They just don't. It's like UFOs. Right. When you could have right now, a UFO could land in our yard, and he could get out and shake his junk at us, moon us, okay, shoot our dog, which we don't have a dog, which would be that much weirder, but it could happen. Of course,
they give us a dog. Give us a dog,
shoot it, and fly off, right? Right. We could have video in 3 different areas on this, all right? And it wouldn't make the national news. No, that's true. It just wouldn't make it. People would call us, you know, would say it's fake. Some people would believe. Some people would come worship the tree out front. I mean, it would happen. Right. But it would be the same group of people that believe. Right. It wouldn't be mainstream media. Right. Why is that? Now, if somebody came here with a gun and shot our front door up, right, then they would talk about it. Okay. Oh yeah. But if we got abducted by aliens tonight and they did terrible things to us that we slightly enjoyed and we talked about it, they wouldn't mention it on mainstream media. Not in a nice way anyway. That bothers me. Okay. And when that happens, it's the whole reason I do this show is because of that. Right. And when mysterious booms happen and a whole community hears it and it sounds like an explosion, when trumpets, that I'll call trumpets from the sky, sound like heavy machinery, sound like God's doing a reconstruction project, and we don't talk about it on mainstream media, folks, why is that? Why are they not talking about this other than your local news? Why does your local news talk about it for a couple of days and then it's done? Well, that's because the local news are people you see in the grocery store. They're you and me. Right. Okay. The mainstream media gets fed from these few little outlets that tell them what to say and tell them what to program and tell them what to talk about. And whether you're on the red side or the blue side, you still get programmed. You still get talked about, that you talk about certain things, right? Over and over and over, and they beat a dead horse and they talk about it over and over. They don't talk about this. And to me, this is what the practical thing is. I think we should talk about the practical things. Right. You know, I think we should be talking about the fact that there's something happening to thousands, if not millions. Right. That we don't understand. Well, imagine how many of those there are that don't even get reported. Because I know not even a couple of weeks ago, we were in our room and we heard a boom. Yeah.
And it was not reported because I checked the news the next day.
Right.
But not only did we hear a strange boom, we immediately heard helicopters.
Yes.
Military helicopters.
Yes.
And you can tell because they make.
And this was a week ago. There was a giant explosion sound. And it was not, I looked too. I didn't see it anywhere.
Yeah.
But then you heard like the big heavy helicopter, like the military type copter that goes over. And the thing about it, it was below zero. I'm not a pilot,
right?
But I can't imagine that being the ideal time that you're going to want to be flying around,
right?
Unless it's like a med flight type thing,
right?
Which we never hear. We never hear that.
No, and I think there was more than one.
And we live beside an airport.
It sounded like there was two.
Yeah, we live beside an airport.
Yes,
but we rarely hear helicopters. It's more of small planes, and so this was right afterwards, and it was strange, It was
strange.
But my whole point to this whole thing is we need to have discussions on a serious level about what this is. When I don't care that scientists say they don't understand what it is, and they'll always come out and say, well, it wasn't an earthquake and it wasn't. That's great.
Right. They'll tell you what it wasn't.
Appreciate that. So thanks for playing. Now let's discuss what it is.
Right. And you know that if they did know what it was, they would tell you, because we proved that. We've had stories this year where they've told you what certain things were because they knew.
As soon as it happens, when there's a boom that they can explain,
right?
They're like, yeah.
They're on the phone like, whoops, we did that.
Sorry. Roscoe got drunk and fell into vat again, and it blew poor Roscoe up. Or the time that there was the mysterious plane or whatever,
right?
And, the rocket over L.A. a few weeks back. Everybody thought that it was end times,
right?
Because the SpaceX rocket went up, and they were like, holy cow, and it looked crazy. It looks nuts, right? And they said, well, this is what that was, you morons. They tell us.
Right.
They tell us when they know. So imagine how many things are happening that they don't freaking tell us.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm going to end up, this is going to drive me so nuts.
I can tell. I probably shouldn't have brought it up.
It's going to drive me so bananas that I'm going to be building like, mashed potato mountains and stuff. This is going to be the end of me. I'm going to be in Bellevue and just screaming like, why aren't we talking about the booms?
All right. Well, let's get back to our most interesting stories. So we had the possible UFO disclosure, the JFK files, the mysterious booms. I had the interstellar object discovery listed, but we've already talked about that because it kind of goes in with the disclosure, and it was just an amazing thing. So it has to be on there twice. So then the last one I wanted to talk about was something we actually talked about quite a lot and got a lot of attention this past year, and that's flat Earth.
Oh, yes.
And it got a lot of media attention.
It was the year of the flat Earth.
It was. And this all started getting into the main media with Kyrie Irving.
Yes.
Of course, about him talking about how he believed in flat Earth. And, then Shaq came out and kind of backed him up. And then you had this Flat Earth Society that started putting the billboards up. They started funding the billboards. And then you've had like that rapper, B.O.B., doing a GoFundMe calling Show Me the Curve. He was wanting to send stuff up. And then, of course, our good friend.
I had a Show
Mike.
Me the Curve campaign too, but it was completely different.
That was Show Me the Curves. Yeah. And then, of course, our good friend Mad Mike Hughes and all his amazing antics with...
Who actually wins the Paranormal Sideshow Man of the Year award. I just wanted to... if you guys missed our awards, that's because we didn't do them. But the Man of the Year...
We win all the awards.
We win everything except
that one.
Man of the Year.
So a little update though on the Kyrie Irving thing, and this is kind of funny.
He was in the running.
Is he has his own Nike shoes. Basketball players do that where they design their own shoes, and they're called Kyrie 4. And if you have a pair of these shoes and you look on the back of the tongue, there's actually an all-seeing eye icon that he put there. And he said that it was meant to challenge everyone to seek their own answers beyond the ones that are given to us by books and the media and the internet and so forth.
Right.
And so then he made a commercial for his new shoe. And I'll link to the commercial. It's really good. And during the commercial, he actually walks past. He's talking about, doing everything your own way. And he says something to the effect of, this is my world. and he spins this flat Earth disc, like it's a disc of the globe, and it's standing up on this spinny thing, and he spins it when he's saying, "This is my world," which is kind of just a nod to the flat Earth thing. Right. I thought that was kind of funny that he included that. In his commercial.
It's funny that talk about things I would never have thought would have came back. You know, like when you're reading your history books when you're a kid, and people make the jokes, you know, oh, remember when they thought the Earth was flat, har har har, you know, and so that's one of those though that you kind of like, yeah, we figured that one out already. You know,
they did used to think the Earth was flat. I never even really thought of that.
Yeah, well, that was like that's the joke back when they still thought the world was flat.
That's right. They thought they'd sail off the end.
Yeah, and
how funny.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just kind of weird, man. That's
everything goes in cycles, doesn't it?
Yeah, but flat Earth, you know,
I don't know.
I just that one is crazy to me that it got legs. It really is.
We actually did a whole episode on the flat Earth theory and the hollow Earth theory. That's the Rogue episode. If you're looking for that episode, it's called the Rogue episode. Yeah. And that one kind of went all off the rails.
Well, yeah.
It was Alan and Travis's fault, I'm sure.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. But I'm totally down with the hollow Earth thing, though. I'm telling you, you know, the flat Earth thing, like we said, it's okay if you believe it. That's fine.
Right.
But I'm totally down with the hollow Earth deal. I think there's something going on down there, and I think it could answer my booms. I'll tell you, in 2018, I know they've been talking about it for about a year, but Japan, my country, my other country there,
right?
Japan is actually going to be starting from a vessel. From a ship, drilling into the Earth's mantle.
Wow,
and
that's ambitious.
It's terrifying in a way.
It is.
They're doing it for a good reason. They're going to try to be able to predict earthquakes. I mean, if you live somewhere where you may want to be able to predict earthquakes, it would be Japan. But they're going to be at least starting it. It's I think it's 400 or 500 million that's going into this.
So they're drilling through the ocean floor,
right?
All the way down through the crust, which is miles.
Right. It's like 10 miles or something. I don't know. Anyway, they've got this 3 different spots, I think, picked out, Hawaii being one of them. And they're going to drill down through the ocean floor and try to find out if there's microbial life down there.
No, they've never done that before, right? They've never actually drilled that far?
No, they've tried doing things like that. And you hear about it, and I guess everybody probably dies, and you don't ever hear about it again. But this is a pretty big project. I don't know how far they'll get it in 2018.
Right, they're just sort of starting.
I know that it's definitely on the books, and we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm very interested to see what happens. I hope that they don't drain all the ocean water out.
Yeah, let's hope the Earth's not hollow like that close to the surface, because that could present a problem.
Yeah, it really could. Well, it's really interesting. I mean, 82% of the Earth's mass is, you know, in the core. I mean, it's so you got to think about that for a minute. I mean, what if there is another world down there?
I mean, there could be. There's tons of theories about what's in the middle of the Earth.
I mean, there's been a lot of things come up from the depths.
The thing about the middle of the Earth is everything's a theory, even what science books tell you. Yeah, because they don't really know what's down there.
They don't know. I mean,
it's not been confirmed 100%.
No. So I'm excited about it, and it's something I've talked about for years. You know, let's find out what's in the ocean. Let's find out what's underneath us before we go out looking anywhere else, where we can't really do what we want to do. But there's other things happening in 2018. You know, Japan is landing a lander on the moon. I think China is they've already had one on the moon. They're actually going to the dark side of the moon.
Yeah, China's going to try and go to the dark side of the moon.
Which is interesting.
Yes, I'll be interested to find out what I hope they share their information.
I hope they do. We never really heard much when they did their lander. I think their lander broke down or whatever.
Maybe.
After a very short amount of time. But there's a lot of big things space-wise happening internationally now. And I think we're going to talk about here the last few weeks, which is kind of cloak and dagger-ish. But yeah, we've got a story coming up about that. But it's just a lot of cool stuff going on. Definitely the Earth's core thing. I like that.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, let's just have that was like the top 5 biggest things that we talked about last year, but I have a few honorable mentions that were also big.
Yeah, and things you might need to remember.
Right, I didn't want to leave them off the list, such as the end of the world predictions.
Right.
We had several of those.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe it was just one that changed several times or something like that.
He changed it several times. It seems like in the course of our doing these podcasts for the last 8 years, it's been a different guy every few years. David Mead, I believe, that was this one. Yes. So I'm just waiting for the next one because they're always good news. I always feel like I know the guys by the time it's done. Like,
you know what they're thinking.
I wonder if they all end up at the same commune.
Perhaps.
You know?
Perhaps. Another story that was pretty big was the Chicago flying humanoid sightings.
Okay, that one I think could and should have made the top 5.
Well, possibly. Yes.
I think it should have. Flying humanoids is up there with mysterious booms for me as far as it gets me randy. Well, I love the flying humanoids, and this one was Mothman. They call it the Chicago Mothman sightings, which always are a harbinger of death and destruction. And how can you really tell in Chicago?
I don't know. I know that when we talked about it, as of around August of last year, they had about 30 sightings.
I will say that my youngest son is spending most of his time in Chicago now with his beautiful fiance.
Yes.
And there could be a chance that he is causing this. I mean,
is it totally his fault?
I do believe that you know, if you're in my bloodline, there's a good chance that craziness follows you. So sorry, Chicago.
Well, also, we did the story on that mysterious object off the beach in Rhode Island that they removed, and then you never heard anything else about.
Never heard another thing about it.
Because they just were like, we're going to store this till we figure out what it is. Yeah. And then, like, that's it.
Indiana Jones, baby.
It's in a crate somewhere in a warehouse. It's in Warehouse 13.
Yeah, they got it because they were using, like, Randy's part-time tool tie, you know, to pull it out or whatever. I remember they were trying to get people to pull it up. And yeah, we had a lot of fun with that.
All right. Well, in the same kind of line, let's talk about some of the weirdest stories we had this last year. Some really just crazy, off the wall, stupid things.
Some of the gems.
Yeah. So, of course, number one has to be all of the crazy, crazy village stuff.
Yes.
That happened this past year. I mean, we even did an episode called Beware the Village.
Oh, yeah.
Because it seemed like every episode or so there was something else that happened in a village,
and we went back hundreds of years as far as villages go. I mean, we went back to, I mean, talk about some of the crazy crap with the villages.
There was the one with the hair cutting ghost where women were being falling asleep and their hair was being cut, and then of course you had the vampire, the bloodsuckers, and
that one got you mad.
Well, it spawned these vigilante vampire mobs that were harassing people and killing people and trying to burn people alive because they were afraid that they were bloodsuckers.
Although, to their credit, to the vampire mobs, well, not to the mobs, but the vampires themselves, they may have like been up on this new study, you know, from Stanford. I was watching Joe Rogan, And I looked into it myself after this about this freaking study that they had done with the mice, where they exchanged the old blood with the transfusion of old mice with the young blood, you know, young mice, and there was like anti-aging properties, like the old mouse was like running around, jumping, you know, beating off a lot, watching, you know, skateboarding and stuff, and the you know, the young mice after that was kind of like, you know, talking about his rheumatism, and it was just, you know, very different, and so this year in 2018 they're going to really be doing the first anti-aging studies.
Wow, using young blood?
Well, I don't know if they're going to be doing the young blood. I know that the founder of PayPal absolutely already does that. There's a name for the treatment where you actually inject young blood into yourself.
Wow.
And it costs, you know, several $1,000s a go.
I'm sure.
I think it's like $7,000 or $8,000. It's not out of reach. Like, I'm totally going to get some volunteers or something that I work with, see if they want to raise, and maybe just get a little blood, just let me give you a little nip here on the neck for a second. But yeah, I mean, they're actually looking at anti-aging things. They think that they have figured it out.
Wow.
And may be able to, I don't think that they're going to stop aging, but I mean, I don't think they're going to reverse aging.
Right.
But I believe they may be able to slow it or you know, change it somewhat, which is not going to help the population crisis.
No, not at all.
But I mean,
wow,
it would be fantastic.
Well, at least it wouldn't. I would think that at first it's not something that would be accessible to a lot of people.
No.
You know, just people that had a lot of money.
Yeah, if they already know about it, then there's people that's going to be living forever.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're playing God a bit there.
Yes.
So,
well, you know, we did have a few stories about people talking about humans and technology, doing the whole transhumanism thing.
Yeah, because I said I would be a robot in a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
You put my conscience in a robot, I'll do it right now. That's
sort of an anti-aging process.
It is.
In a way.
It is.
Because they're, using technology to reverse the aging or to keep you from aging.
Absolutely. But just, back to the villages. Mm-hmm. The vampirism's not quite as quacky as what people would have thought at one time.
No, I guess not. But we did have the one story, the village with the man-hating ghost, where all the men left because there was a man-hating ghost. Just crazy, crazy stuff. And it's funny because there was a story recently from India saying that due to an unsettling increase in these sorcery incidents and the vigilante, things going on, that they're going to create rapid response teams to be sent out. There's going to be dozens of them to be sent out to quickly squash any kind of cases of superstition or witchcraft, black magic, anything like that. They're actually forming these teams so that when there's the reports of those, they can send the teams out to try and keep the whole vigilante mob thing from happening. Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that. Is these teams are going to have to be filled with actual paranormal and supernatural experts to be able to look at the situation and properly say, hey, this actually is something.
Right.
Because the whole thing about it is we get all these crazy village things, but you know what? It happens in our neighborhoods too. It's not talked about. People in more organized areas, you should say, are so blind to things. They get up, they go to work, they, whatever, they come home, they watch their TV, and in the house next door, there's some crazy, resurrection magic going on. I mean, it's just in a village, it's a little bit harder to hide that crap.
Right. Everybody knows everybody's business and all that.
It's just, I think the stuff's always happened. I think there again, internet, social media.
I think their real purpose is to just, calm the people, just to keep it from getting out of hand.
Yeah. Nothing to see here, move along.
Exactly.
Yeah. Don't kill, please. Don't kill them, please.
Well, so another really weird story that we had this last year was the thing about the Amelia Earhart special on History Channel and their groundbreaking evidence that was immediately discounted the very next day in 10 minutes by a blogger on the internet.
Yeah.
Which was hilarious. And History Channel actually put out a statement saying that they were investigating the whole thing, but they've actually pulled that episode from any kind of streaming, I think. I'm pretty sure you can't just find it. And they never did come back out and say anything about their investigation, but wow, what a smear on their face,
Yeah, it really sucks.
It does.
I mean, and it makes me mad because of how the level that we go to when we're doing an investigation or something. I get really good evidence and you won't let me put it out if there's even a sniffle of doubt.
Yeah. At least without saying, now there's a doubt to this, but it could be this or could be that.
If I get something, Stacey researches it to know, like if I tell her, I don't know, I feel like it's from the Ward building in 1782, she looks it up and calls them and finds out. And it's just like, one of your big stories this year was the hauntings at that school, and it happened a couple of times and you got a hold of the school. I mean, that's the kind of level you go to. And this guy was getting paid by the History Channel.
Right. To make this special.
And can't freaking Google search a picture.
Exactly.
I mean, really?
I don't know. It's crazy. So another really weird story was the one that you had found about the museum. The Reddit thread about the alien that would go to the coordinates. If you just gave him coordinates, he'd go there and you could see. I still think Mazium
was an alien.
Well, you can now I still have a link for that. It's actually an archived thread now. You have to go to the archive, but we have a link for it on our site and I'll relink it so that you can go read it if you missed it the first time. But definitely very strange.
It was amazing.
Things. Yeah.
It was amazing. And then the crazy pictures he put up that you could not reverse image search.
It's just so weird.
They didn't come up with anything. And so I think Mazium was an alien that was sort of doing what he said. I think he was out of fuel and
just hanging out
and whatever. It at the very least, if you're a listener and you faked that on Reddit, God love you.
You did a good job.
You did a really good job. If you're going to fake something, make a good backstory. Give it
take some pride in it.
Yeah. I mean, really just go all out. I can't stand when people fake evidence. I really can't. But if you're going to do it, make it fun for us. That's all. That's all I care about.
Exactly. Okay. So another really weird story was the one about the medieval grave at that monastery that they dug up, and it had a porpoise skeleton in it, which I thought was a very strange story. It's the only reason I brought it up again.
Oh, no, it's weird. I mean,
because there is no explanation for that.
We have been trying for months to figure out what the porpoise of that was. And
I brought it up just so you could make that joke again.
And from all we could tell, there is no porpoise whatsoever for them doing that.
And of course, and the weirdest of all was the disappearing cats story.
Yes.
That we had. And those were mostly around Halloween is when we did them. And there was a couple of like villages, of course, towns, where the cats were going missing.
Right.
And as funny as it is, I was looking to see if there was an update on the cat disappearances. And I actually found an article from Ireland where this is happening in Ireland now too.
Oh, wow.
Where there are cats that are going missing.
Well, they're blaming that on the little people.
So the article says that over 250 cats have disappeared in the past few months.
Wow.
All across Ireland. And there's this pet store there called Pet Connection. It's in Newry, and they actually have a map online. I can link to it where it shows all the places where cats have disappeared.
Does it come up in a pentagram?
No, it doesn't. But while I was still researching this, the lady in the article for the Irish one talked about how she felt like it was a copycat of this, of this cat killer in England called the M25 cat killer.
Wow.
Yeah, this is a real thing. Also called the Croydon cat killer or the Croydon cat ripper. And it's like a cat serial killer that has been doing this since 2014
what a pussy.
Where it cuts the cat's heads off or the tails off and just like leaves them for people to find.
That's freaking terrible.
It is. And it's been happening and they have no idea who it is. I mean, they have like... I think they said the killer could be a white man in his 40s with short brown hair and maybe wearing a headlamp. So I don't know.
A headlamp?
Yeah, I don't know.
What in the flying bananas?
I don't know. That was just the description that I saw. But this disappearing cat thing is a big deal, apparently.
Yeah.
I mean, much, much bigger than I thought.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. So one thing I thought was funny about this article about the Irish ones.
I mean, they don't have a person of interest.
No person of interest. They have no idea.
I mean, I wonder if these cats are anywhere near like little people places.
I mean, I wouldn't think so, especially not the ones in England that are just getting killed and they're not. I mean,
I don't think the little people would kill cats, but maybe they're riding them or something. Maybe. Or maybe they invited them down. Or oh my God, Stacey.
What?
What if the cats are the aliens?
Oh my God, it could be.
And they're just leaving. Like they're just...
There you go.
Yeah.
You figured it out. And they were all in Ireland.
That interstellar object that we've never seen before.
Oh my God. It came through and picked up all the cats.
Yeah. They came and got the cats.
There you go. You figured it out. It's amazing.
That's what I do. I'm a super sleuth. I mean, you gotta add this stuff together.
That's how you connect the dots.
Absolutely. I watch a lot of Sherlock Holmes, read a lot of Sherlock Holmes. I think I've got it figured out.
All right. Well, before we get to our couple of new news stories that we were going to add on to the end, let me just mention some really cool discoveries that were made this last year. Some kind of archaeological discoveries.
Right, because we talk about a lot of archaeological stuff just because it goes in like, I guess if you went on some of the big things John and Stacey talk about quite a bit, it would be stuff dating us back further because we both believe that we're completely being lied to about Egypt. We believe that the Sphinx is far older than what they tell you. And we believe that, we probably have been around with high technology more than once.
Oh, yeah. I believe there used to be giants.
Yeah. Giants roam the earth. And we also believe that, just stuff we believe just from doing this research for so long and so many things they can't answer and don't really make sense. And when you look at some of these Göbekli Tepe type places that totally date back 13,000 years, you're like, holy cow, or longer.
Right.
How did they do this when they didn't have the tools to do it? And then when you could take an hour, just an hour, and watch some of the things or research some of the things with the tools that they had at the time, which, by the way, they never find the tools around there, to do all these great structures, and they don't find the tools. There's just no way. And it's all over the world. It's not just Egypt. It's all over the world. We had high technology at some point. And so the reason we look at the archaeological stuff is the best way to find out about our future is to look at our past. And it really always puts us back further. It's funny. Every year we do this show, we find stuff that baffled scientists and push mankind's date back earlier and earlier and earlier. So
absolutely. Well, let me just run through these real quick. And these come from an article. I'll link to it. I didn't put these together myself. I'll just say that I did get them from an article, but they're so interesting. The first one is an excavation near Morocco's west coast. They actually uncovered 300,000-year-old bones, which is some of the earliest members of course, Homo sapiens lineage. And again, backs us up a couple, more than we thought.
Right.
At Göbekli Tepe,
yes,
which is a place that you love.
Yes, absolutely.
This past year, they revealed that they did this microscopic analysis of some bone fragments that they found at that site. And it suggested that human skulls may once have hung there kind of on prominent display, and that they were carved and altered after people had died. So it suggested that maybe they used the skulls in some kind of ritual or a way that they, took care of their dead, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right. So another discovery from this year was that researchers announced a new way of detecting the presence of Neanderthals around Europe and Asia, where they didn't think that they were before.
I could detect them really easy.
I
see them all the time.
They took cave sediments and did some DNA testing and found sites where dating up to 60,000 years ago and 100,000 years ago of where these Neanderthals were that they didn't have any idea that they were at before.
Right.
So that they were really excited
the
about
Neanderthals that I dealt with in the South with the smokestacks on their trucks.
Right.
The Bass Pro Shop guys.
Right.
Remember the Bass Pro Shop guys?
Yes.
Up here, the Neanderthals are different because it's not really the Bass Pro Shop Neanderthals. It's the guys with the snow plows on the front of their trucks.
Right.
And there's really good guys with snow plows in the front of their trucks, but there are the occasional.
Right.
Neanderthals.
Yes, exactly.
It's hard to spot a Neanderthal, but sometimes when they're running you off the road and they're not actually cleaning, they're not actually doing this for a job.
They're just driving around with the plow on the front.
They drive around with the plow on the front because it's just the thing you do. It's kind of like having a spoiler wing.
Right.
They just kind of have to have it, and so I used to be able to identify everyone with the Bass Pro Shop deal, and of course I've been looking for a sponsorship from Bass Pro Shop for years.
Yes, I'm sure they love you.
I guarantee they do.
I'm sure they love you.
And I love everybody because I don't have a bad thing against anybody, and it's just a lot of fun for me. But I had an experience out driving in the snow with a couple of those trucks, and it was just like, wow.
All right. Well, another discovery they had was this past year, they discovered the earliest known public Egyptian hieroglyphic inscription.
Right.
Which is pretty cool. It's dating to around 3,250 BC. And of course, this year.
And amazingly, it said send pics.
It didn't say that. But we did talk about a lot of discoveries in Egypt this past year. I mean, it seems like Egypt came up a lot.
Yeah, Egypt did come up quite a bit. It was crazy.
One more that I thought was really cool, and it's at Avebury, which is the Neolithic monument. It's right near Stonehenge. And it has the big circle. It's like the largest stone circle,
right,
I think, in the area. They actually this year discovered using radar technology that there's evidence of an arrangement of stones that used to be a house in the very center and it's like a square.
Yes.
And it's a structure that was built as early as 3500 BC.
Right.
So that was pretty exciting discovery.
It's awesome.
Yes.
I just would love to know more about it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure they're going to try and discover more about it as they can.
Yeah.
But
I haven't heard nothing about it.
So that's kind of a recap of our 2017. It was very weird.
Absolutely.
And awesome and everything else.
Yeah. And we've got some actual stories. I was going to say first that while we're still on the process of, 2017, 2018 and all this good stuff, do you have a 2018 resolution? Do you have something that you would like to, some kind of New Year's resolution? No, none whatsoever.
I don't think that I didn't make any resolutions. I decided that it didn't really make any sense to make resolutions because I never kept them. So,
I kept mine last year.
I'm just not setting myself up for disappointment.
I kept mine last year.
Did you?
Yeah.
What was it last year?
Mine was weight last year.
Yes, you did.
I kept mine. I'm keeping mine this year.
Okay.
This year I have been on I've been on nicotine in some form of capacity since I was about 10 or 11 years old. That's when I first started sneaking skull. And I have dipped for all these years.
Right.
And honestly, probably taken more nicotine in my body through that and poisons and whatever else is in that than any human ever should.
Right.
So I am currently almost completely off of it.
Yes.
And I am actually doing this herbal type this herbal snuff. It's just herbs.
Right.
And it's completely okay for you. And I'm almost completely now. Poor Stacey is having to put up with me not having the nicotine. So she has me on a slow, get off it slow.
Yes.
Because I was trying to do it all at once.
Yes.
And
John's very much a cold turkey. Like when he decides he wants to stop something, he's just going to stop.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really work for me.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, I bought him some skull and I was kind of like, why don't you just have a dip of this? Just one. It's fine. Just every other dip, maybe.
Yeah. Which I don't. I'm doing about one dip a day.
Yes. You're doing very good.
And I'm going to have myself completely off of it. But yeah, it drives me like I want to rip people's faces off.
It makes you edgy.
A little
makes
bit.
You edgy.
In 2018, though, my other little personal thing is I want to record a song again.
Oh. Okay.
Sometime in 2018, I had I've written so many songs. When I had the band, we had hundreds and hundreds of actually completed songs, and we only had a very select few that ever got recorded onto an album. And then there was our Eddie and the Cruiser Season in Hell album that we actually recorded. It was beautiful, had every great song on it, and it got like taken away. And it just in some gremlin's basement somewhere. And you know who you are out there, Mr. Producer, that probably still listens to everything that I do. Probably. So, that kind of sucked. So I really, just for me, I want to do a song again sometime this year. And so that's a big thing of mine.
Yeah.
And cause I still write all the time. I just want to do a song. But before we get into our news stories, I thought it would be fun, since we're talking all this 2018 nonsense, to do some predictions.
Oh, that sounds fun.
And I can't, this is for entertainment purposes only, obviously. So this would just be some predictions like people give. And I figured we would use it. I could use an alter ego friend of mine, the great Antonio. and we're going to have.
Is that another personality of yours?
Well, it's my middle name.
I got you.
Anthony.
Yes.
So, and the great Antonio is going to now give you some 2018 predictions. Because why not?
Because why not?
Greetings, my friend. You are interested in the unknown, mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
And now, 2018, the year of our Lord, predictions. Psychic predictions from the great Antonio, the psychic that the Illuminati themselves come seek out answers from. In 2018, another earthquake / tsunami combo. You get a special when you get both. It's cheaper. It's going to hit some random island. I see a sudden and massive war, but not a war like you're expecting. I mean huge and quick. Sudden is the word that I'm seeing. Sudden. I believe it'll happen and be over with before you know it. Sticking with females, not that we were talking about females, I see a big figure, not big figure, it could have been a small lady, but I believe somebody that's important will pass in 2018 and the world will feel it. The world will mourn and it'll dominate our news, but it'll be a very well-known female. I believe there'll be a huge whistleblower, Edward Snowden level. Not sure what he's exposing, hopefully not himself, but I believe it will rock the world, absolutely rock the world. We're talking NSA level exposure, whistleblower 2018. I believe the PC culture will explode even more to dangerous levels. I believe it'll become wrong to even have opposing opinions, whereas violence even comes out more than it ever has for having unpopular opinions. I believe that name calling and accusations are going to just completely keep growing as we're already seeing happen. I believe that this will curve in 2019 and go back to a more common sense. It's okay to hurt someone's feelings top level. But before that happens, it's going to get nasty. I believe there'll be a huge political indictment. A huge political indictment will take place, but will somehow eventually backfire. I see one side celebrating and then eating healthy amounts of crow. Be careful before you celebrate too early. I believe that there'll be this indictment. Before you celebrate, beware and remember the great Antonio said that it may backfire.
Right.
I believe there'll be a major Phoenix Lights level UFO event. Something we haven't seen in years.
Wow.
That everyone talks about. Mm-hmm. There'll be debate of whether it was secret government or it was UFO, actual UFO, folks. I believe that this will be a huge level mainstream media covering what happened over the skies of Ontario type thing. It could be anywhere, but I'm just saying, major city, major event, UFO level. What was it? And everybody will talk about it and it'll go down in UFO lore as a Phoenix Lights level type thing. I believe there'll be a new paranormal television show toward the end of the year that is going to be announced with, I think it will be a couple, like a pretty amazingly attractive couple for their age. And I think that it'll be something we haven't seen in a while with intelligence and what I'm seeing is humor and yet intelligence and learning yet attractiveness. I believe you'll want to actually sleep with both these people when you see them. But I believe that will happen sometime in 2018, which will be nice. It's been a few years since we've had something intelligent on television. So that is the great Antonio, and that is his predictions. I will now give back over the great Antonio to John.
All right. Well, be sure and tell the great Antonio that we said thank you, and we'll be checking up on his predictions at the end of the year. Well,
I hear the great Antonio has some designs on you. And
oh, does he?
Yeah.
Does he? I think I met him the other night.
Yeah. That explains that spot on the turban.
This is why you don't remember.
Well, you know, his third eye's watching you.
All right. Well, we didn't really want to do a lot of new news today, but there's a couple of things that I wanted to mention before we end the show. And one of them is about the full moons in January.
I feel like we're at a business meeting. Now that the old news is out of the way, Does anybody have any new news? Well, I've got some new news, sir. Does anyone other than Walter have new news? But it's really good news, sir. Does anyone at all have any new news? All right, sorry.
That's all right. So let's talk about the full moons in January.
Yes.
Because there's two.
Yes.
And they're both super moons.
Super moons.
Super moons.
Super moons.
So the first one, the full wolf moon, already happened. It was on January 1st.
Yes.
And it was a super moon.
Yes.
And the second full moon, which is technically a blue moon, is going to be on the 31st.
Blue moon.
And it's going to be actually an eclipse.
Yes.
For us, right before dawn.
Which will make it look red.
Oh, there you go.
That's really cool part of it.
Well, it's cool that it's like a blue moon, an eclipse, and a super moon.
Yeah.
I mean, how often does that happen?
What I was reading on this earlier on was when that eclipse happens, it gives it that blood look. So it's not like a blood moon, but some people call it blood moon because it's going to look that way. So a big ass super moon, that's a blue moon. That's so rare and it looks blood.
Right.
I mean, that is dance naked in the yard and just,
Well, I mean, we always talk about the crazy things that happen around a full moon. And even this past one on January 1st was weird.
You need to lock me in a closet. Like the 3 days around that moon, as crazy as I get.
Right.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, I'll tell you that we saw this story also from Ecuador recently where the ocean disappeared.
Yeah.
And it just went out and left all the boats on the shore. Right. And so I think the explanation for that, it has to kind of do with the supermoons and the full moons. And it's called like syzygy tides.
Yeah.
I think is what they call them. And it's just where the high and low tides are very extreme.
It's either that or Japan already started drilling.
The water's starting to circle out. But I tell you what, it would make a big like whirlpool drain thing.
That would go the wrong direction in Ecuador. All right. So, what really bothers me about Ecuador ever since I was a kid is I've always thought that people are either saying equator wrong or that you're supposed to say, or you're supposed to call Ecuador equator. And I always thought like the equator is maybe spelled with that D and like it was like,
like
Ecuador.
It was the same thing.
Yeah. Because Ecuador's on the equator.
Right. I think that it means equator or something.
It also bothers the crap out of me. Just bothers the bejesus out of me. And we have so many listeners in New Zealand and Australia and stuff. But what bothers me is, okay, below the equator, when you drain water, it goes the opposite direction, right?
I mean, I've always heard that.
I mean, is that true?
I've never tested it.
I mean, is that true? That just bothers me. Just the thought of it.
So what happens if you're exactly on the equator? Which way does the water go?
Maybe it doesn't go.
It just sits there.
Maybe you don't even need stops for your bath. It's just confused.
We don't know what to do.
It's just nuts. But yeah, if the water's going to disappear somewhere, you would think. I mean, that's
crazy.
Yeah, it is nuts, though, isn't it?
It is. It is.
That kind of stuff really bothers me.
Well, anyway, it was a weird thing that happened in Ecuador. This kind of related to the moon. So
that was like when I was a kid and they would try to explain eternity to me. I mean,
that's a hard concept for a little kid.
I used to come to tears because I remember being like when most people were in church being scared to death about stuff. I was sitting there being freaked out about eternity because I would be like, all right. So if it's always been, it's just always been, who made it?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, it's always been. Well, then why is there a son? If they've both always been, who's the mom? They're like, well, there's not a mom. There's a son, but they're the same age because they've always been. And well, these aren't the things we know. And I'm like, all right, so if it goes on forever, but it's always been, how's it always been? I mean, because that's a pretty broad stroke here.
Right.
And that I mean, it used to bother me. Like, okay, so if it's always been like forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and we're this little pimple on that. Because, they would tell you that the earth was, 5,000 years old. And that would really freaking bother me. And I used to say when I was a kid, when I was like 8 years old, I would be like, I think the earth's much older than that. I remember sitting in the back seat of the car, leaving church and arguing about this. And they would tell me, you just got to have faith and the earth is only this old. And I would sit there and I would be like, as a kid, this is if it was last week, it wouldn't be that big of a deal.
Right.
But I'm just trying to show you, if they were making a movie about me, like young Sheldon,
right,
it would be me sitting in the back seat going, all right, so it seems to me that somebody wrote the Bible before anybody dug up dinosaur bones. Or there would be dinosaurs all through the Bible. I believe that's a big omitted part from the Bible. And they're like, well, they decided what to put in. They all come together and decided what to put in and what to leave out. And I'm like, no, but if they were putting this stuff in, and there was a chapter where there was Tyrannosaurus Rex that was chasing disciples around.
Right.
Because you think they might.
Who would be the person that was important enough to decide what part of the Bible didn't get to go in?
Yeah, because there was, though. I mean, they decided what was canon and what wasn't.
Right.
And, and some of the stuff like, the book of Enoch,
right.
that got left out because, had the aliens and stuff and the giants and all this stuff. So, but that kind of stuff used to really bother me. And I remember sitting there, and the dinosaur discussion was actually something I thought of when I was like 10. And I was just like, it seems to me like since they only dug up dinosaurs like in the 1800s, which was way after the Bible was written, that they just didn't put that in there because
they didn't know.
Because they didn't freaking know there was dinosaurs. And
these are valid questions for a child.
Well, it is. And I really just wanted to know.
Right.
And they're like, well, it's not really important. And I'm like, I kind of think it is. I kind of think if there's an animal walking around the size of a building, that maybe they should. How did could they just not fit them on the ark?
I used to always ask my parents why there were so many different denominations. If everybody had the same Bible, why was one right and one wrong? And I don't think I ever got a straight answer for that one.
Yeah, well, and the whole thing about it is I don't ever want to come off like we are like, non-believers or anything. The thing with us is we just really want to explore things and find the beauty and all, I guess.
That's when we were kids. Those are
questions when we were kids. It's really funny because it just makes me think the Southern Hemisphere thing was one of the things that always got me as a kid. And no one could ever, because I didn't know till later that all my teachers were morons.
Right.
Like I realized that I lived in a very stupid area of the world after I grew up because, I believe if I had been raised.
Did they grow tobacco on your football field?
They did. They did. Like part of our school was growing tobacco.
Right.
That's the school I went to, was growing freaking tobacco on the hill of our school.
I always heard that.
And it's the truth.
Yeah.
And that's, I didn't realize till later in life, like maybe the problem was I was around morons. And, it was just really, because I do believe had I been raised in Boston, Massachusetts, they may have answered this for me.
Right.
If I'd went to the right school, they just would have hit me with a ruler or something and
told you to shut up.
Yeah, told me to shut up. So at least the people that my teachers did allow me to muse on these things. So.
All right, well, let's move on to the next story. Okay, so this is the story about the SpaceX launch that has all the mystery kind of surrounding it. That's supposedly taking the top secret Zuma satellite, the U.S. government satellite, that nobody can say what it's for or who's in control of it.
Right.
So that was supposed to launch. It was actually supposed to launch, I think, back in November.
Right.
And it got put off and it got put off. And it was going to happen on the 5th. And again, it got put off.
Right.
So it actually launched on Sunday, which is tonight when we're recording this. It did launch finally.
Right.
But it's very, very strange.
Cloak and dagger.
Yes, because supposedly there's not a division of the government that's taking control of this, or not admitting that they have control of this particular satellite. And it's a spy satellite. I mean, it's one of those that looks at what's going on.
Then it wasn't something about they were going to talk to a specific.
Yeah, like there's stories that it's going to talk to a specific group of people, but we don't know who those people are.
But they have to use the satellite to talk to that specific group of people.
I mean, I guess like I said, it's shrouded in mystery. And one of the really strange things about it was contracted by Northrop Grumman.
Yeah.
Which is definitely like a spy agency.
Right.
Already. But another really mysterious thing is recently there have been a lot of rocket launches of satellites.
Right.
And it's not something that they've talked about, but I found an article on Mysterious Universe and they actually got it from this other site that actually put together the fact that all these different countries have launched satellites almost all at the same time.
Right.
So we had this one, but then SpaceX actually launched on December 22nd. And that one was the one that sparked a lot of UFO calls. And I think there was a lot of stuff on the internet, on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, it was
with the
huge.
videos.
People
and
freaked
were
out,
like,
all the live
look
cams.
at this UFO.
Oh, I loved
and blah, blah, yeah. And it wasn't a UFO. It was SpaceX finally came out and was like, no, we're launching this satellite.
It'd be nice to tell us.
Right.
Hey, this is going to light up your sky and scare the crap out of you.
Exactly. And what it was is they were launching a satellite constellation that consisted of over 60 active satellites covering like the whole planet to do voice and data communication. So it was sort of a communication thing. It didn't really appear to be unusual, but on the same day, like 72 seconds before that one launched, Japan launched its own rocket with satellites. Japan's is supposed to be a climate monitoring satellite, is what they said. So just a couple days later, China launched satellites. And they're saying they're like environmental satellites, but China's very secretive. Their whole space thing is military.
Right.
Like the military owns their space thing. So it could be a military project. You don't know.
Yeah.
And on the same day as that, Russia launched satellites.
Right.
So it's just very weird that everybody has launched these satellites virtually at the same time.
So what you're saying is, although it seems like we might have problems with international relations, it could all be a coordinated effort.
It could be.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that it is, but it's not something you've ever heard of before, like where everybody sent satellites.
Well, people do send satellites up all the time.
Right. But
I mean, it could be, couldn't be on that one. I can't tell you, I know there's a lot of satellite launches.
There is.
And it just might happen that this was a good time to launch satellites. I don't know.
Maybe, perhaps. I don't know.
Satellite launching season.
It's weird that they were so close together and that there's a lot of secrecy around.
Yeah, this SpaceX one really got me.
And the SpaceX one is really the most mysterious.
This recent one, all the SpaceX stuff is a little bit too secretive for me. This one, I don't know, man.
Well, just the fact that what they've launched is they're not going to tell you what it's for. We're going to launch the satellite, but we're not going to tell anybody what it's for.
Well, I mean,
or who it talks to, or who controls it.
So I don't know. It's just weird. We're going to find out, I think, soon. We're going to find out soon in our own little way. I think there's a lot going on. If it was something that was like, oh, we're going to find out, if fish feel pain. I don't know. So if it was something just normal,
right?
We're gonna try to grow cannabis on Mars or something. I don't know. Well, that'd be expensive.
Yes, it would.
But it's always like no, nothing to see here. Of course, there's something crazy. Of course, there's something crazy. But
Absolutely.
we needed to talk about it just in case they start showering us with.
Yeah, just in case. You never know.
Yeah.
Well, let me just give you this one update to this last story before we finish.
Alrighty.
And on the last show, I did a story about a man that was supposedly a case of spontaneous combustion. Do you remember? And it was an older gentleman, and nobody could figure out how he caught on fire. There was no kind of accelerant, nothing on his clothes, and police were just begging for witnesses. So 2 weeks later, another man in Hull has burst into flames, and the police have no idea.
In the same place?
Not the same place. I mean, it's in England, but not the exact same place. But this man was on a street in Hull, England, and he was just on fire, and nobody saw it start. Nobody knows what happened to him. They actually are not even giving out his identity.
Dude, this is some kind of crazy weapon or something. And the police are
actually issuing a plea for witnesses to come forward if they know anything. I mean, the only thing that they've got is some people looking out their windows and seeing the man on fire and people trying to put it out. And unfortunately, this man died at the scene. Like it was bad. But again, they couldn't find a reason for the flames. Now, I'm not saying that it's definitely spontaneous combustion, but I mean, it's weird.
No, it's really weird.
It is very strange.
It sounds very demonic. Something crazy.
Well, 2 in like 2 weeks is pretty pretty unusual.
I would like to know more about these people. I know they didn't give his identity, but I'd like to know his political affiliations, if he was a witness to something. I'd like to know if there was like something to it.
The first man was just an elderly gentleman. He's like 70, and he was very nice. And you know, I don't think he had any kind of enemies or anything like that. Again, they're not giving this man's, I guess they still need to identify him. And
I blame Sriracha.
It could be Sriracha.
It's the rise of Sriracha.
But I'm going to keep an eye on this because this is very strange. It's weird that they were both out in the street.
Yeah, it is. It's almost like they're testing some kind of weird weapon to incinerate people.
Well, it's like normally when you hear about these cases, they're at home, they're in bed, they're
sitting in a chair.
Couch,
I mean, everybody thinks of the armchair pictures of the, you know what I'm talking about.
There's just the shoes there. Yeah. But so I don't know, very strange. I thought it was an interesting update. I wanted to go ahead and throw that out there in case another one happened. Yeah. Then, you know, we'd be caught up. So
yeah, it's just nuts, man. That one really is nuts.
I agree.
Maybe we found a way to burn the demons. It's
the kitty aliens.
It could be.
The kitty aliens are leaving and they're like, oh, remember that guy? He was mean to me. He kicked me once.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is all the news we're going to cover today.
That is fantastical. Well, all right. Well, we had a little bit of recap of 2017. We had some 2018 predictions from our friend Antonio.
Yes.
We had, which I promise you, we will not bring Antonio back again until next.
Really?
Yeah, he won't come back again until next year. So we had a lot of fun, and again, thank you so much. We really appreciate you guys coming on the ride with us. All the new listeners we've picked up in 2017. We love you so much. Thank you for reaching out to us and conversing, sending us your messages, sending us your stories, your experiences. We absolutely love going through that, and we like bringing to you content that you've asked for. And we're currently working on some stories that should be some really fun episodes upcoming. The vlog will be kicking back in action soon as it's not minus 20 outside. So there's going to be a lot of big things happening in 2018 for the Paranormal Sideshow and for you Sideshow off. So we're excited. So again, paranormalsideshow.com. That's your address to go find out everything 2018. Facebook.com/Paranormal Sideshow. All kinds of 2018 is happening there. On the Twitter, it's at Sideshow97. Instagram, Hot John and Stacey Dam. It is John and Stacey Edwards. On YouTube.com/Paranormal Sideshow. That's where you go find that sexy vlog that has us in it. And we are available on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Google Play, however you want to listen. #Mommy Daddy Time. For Mommy, I'm Daddy. So long. So say goodbye to 2017. Hello 2018. We love you, and so long from the Sideshow.
Good night.